Got a nice breeze, beautiful night.
Oh, just like last Friday, right?
Just like last Friday.
Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Well, let's get it started here. Another Friday night. Where did the time go, George?
It just flies by. They say at my age, they say days crawl by, years fly by, and that's. But it's really true. It's just like 7 days. I can't wait to watch Washington review tonight, and a couple of other my Friday night shows. It just seemed like yesterday I did this.
Yeah, I don't know. I was as I was driving out here this evening. No, come on out, come on, do. You know, it was all. I was like, didn't we just do the show? It was like. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means that's a good thing or a bad thing, because that means summer's going by maybe way too quickly. But
there's going to be no summer this year. Going on 4th of July. It's everybody's.
Railroad cars these days?
We are counting the railroad cars as they go behind us.
Making bets on how many cars go by. Yeah, that's what.
Loser buys.
Listen, that's not true. Tomorrow, the Preakness.
No, the Belmont.
Belmont.
Belmont tomorrow. Well, you want to start right there? I've got it written down here.
Yeah. What do you got down there?
Well, I just wrote down the 10 horses that are starting tomorrow.
Tis the Law.
Tis the Law is was the opening betting line favorite at 6-5, and I'm not going to go with the favorite. I'm going to go with Dr. Post.
Dr. Post is a good one.
I know nothing about Dr. Post other than he's got the right trainer, and that's all that it takes. That's who I'm looking at, and
I go by names.
Yes.
Tap it in to win.
Tap it in.
I mean, tap it to win.
Tap it to win.
How cool is that? Tap it to win. And Sole Volante. Isn't that a great name for a racehorse?
You've been setting that. You made it sound cooler, because when I read it this morning, it didn't sound that cool.
No, it's the Volante that comes off the end of my tongue. So that's really good. And you know what? I can't even say that I'm a racehorse fan. But boy, we have to start somewhere, and if the horses can help us out a little bit, I'm all for it. There's going to be nobody in the stands. I don't know. I know somebody's going to be making bets somewhere.
Oh,
but there'll be no stands. There'll be no owners. There'll be the horses and the horse riders and whatever other people it takes to keep it going.
To keep it going. That sounds like it's about it.
So anyway, hey.
You know, when you name a horse, you got to do it the right way. And you mentioned Tis the Law. It was T-I-Z. Tis
the Law.
But I thought, a name like Modernness. That's the horse going in the number 4 spot. I'm like, Modernness.
Well,
who fell asleep at the switch?
Pneumatic.
Pneumatics, and see now.
There you are.
See, I like that.
The pneumatic is almost like maybe his hind legs are anatomical. They're just a machine back there or something,
Yeah.
Pneumatic.
I liked 4 left, because there's a lot of times that's what I should be yelling on the golf course. So
yeah,
you got to be looking at things. And of course, the long shot
Tom
is
Brady's
called
favorite. Jungle Runner.
So anyway, the Belmont is usually 1.5 miles.
They're 1.25 miles now.
So we're going to go 1.1 miles or a quarter.
Something like that.
And so we'll see what happens. But then, what I don't quite understand is the Preakness and the Kentucky Derby aren't going to be run till much later. See, the thing about the Triple Crown was there was a race with the Kentucky Derby, 2 weeks off, a race, 3 weeks off, and then a race. Well, here they're stretching it out too far. And so I understand we're in the middle of this pandemic thing, but they should have put them closer together.
They should have.
That's just one person's opinion.
Well,
so.
yeah, and I think you're right there. Now, hey, let's go jump around and see who's going to start a season. What do you hear from Major League Baseball? I'd say that's still a 50-50 shot.
Boy, last week I told you I was wrong, because 2 weeks ago I said there was not going to be a baseball season. Then last week Manfred said there will be. I will force them to go play. And now he's backing off. He's not sure that he can come up with a deal to do this. And I'm just like, maybe in the end I might be wrong. I don't know.
I'll tell you why I don't think it very well might not happen. You have Mike Trout and Bryce Harper saying, you tell us where, you tell us when, we will be there. and they won't do that. And from what I read around, there's 6 to 8 owners that really don't care if there is a season. And and so all of a sudden, I don't know what point they're trying to prove.
But I got the impression today, this morning, whatever, that it was basically Manfred and I can't think of the player union rep.
Clark?
It was those two guys sitting in a room, and I don't know, they should just get to the issues and say, all right, you're here, we're there, we're going to meet right here in the middle. So if it's at 80 games and 70, we're going to do 75. If it's 600 million that the players are supposed to get paid and it's 400 million, let's meet at 500 million and let's get it done. But they can't look at things that way. That's too simplistic. It's too simple.
Well,
because somebody's got to win the argument. Somebody's got to win the banter. And
the NBA is pushing ahead. They're going to take their teams and put them under a bubble at Disney World. Now this is starting to get a little bit strange, and so how are they going to swing this, Tim?
Well, they apparently have a large enough complex there that they think they can pull this off. The WNBA basically signed their collective bargaining agreement. Their 22-game schedule is going to start around the end of July. They're going to make this work. So, the MLS is going to start here in about 2.5 weeks on July 8th. So they're going to swing into motion. But boy, I'll tell you, just when I was convinced that we were going to have sports of some kind, then the University of Texas comes out that they've got 13 football players that tested positive. Houston came out last week. Ezekiel Elliott said he's confirmed. So what are they doing with the Dallas Cowboys? There's some interesting
This
stuff.
is kind of strange. So they're going to have all these players under the bubble get tested each night. They all go to their rooms. They can conjugate, but nobody can go to each other's room. And
but to me,
if they test positive, they have to go 7 days in an isolation building.
So here's my question to you, George.
Yeah.
We're going to go into this bubble in Orlando or whatever,
Right.
NBA. Let's just talk the NBA. We're going to go into this bubble, okay? We walk in the door, first thing they do is they jam a Q-tip in your nose, and they test you.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, you don't go anywhere. You're in this bubble for the next 6 weeks. Why do they have to keep testing you?
Well,
you aren't going anywhere.
I don't know. And so
that seems ridiculous to me.
And they will do that, but if there's any positive results, they're quarantined for 7 days in isolated housing. But this is where the good parts is. This is incredible. The league is exploring a variety of entertainment options at Disney World for a bunch of great big tall basketball players. And get this, they've got to have a rule: no doubles ping pong. Now, I saw that and I had to take a look and thinking this was somebody being sarcastic. No, in the 113-page rules, no doubles ping pong.
Okay, so here's okay. Let me piggyback that. I'm going to go away a little bit because this week, or just this week, the state high school league came out with their recommendations for sports that are going to be able to be played. Okay, so they said, well, running's okay because whatever. But you ever watch the start of a cross-country race?
Oh yeah,
they're pretty close to one another, right?
Oh no, they're jam-packed.
And all this other stuff. But you can't play doubles tennis. Doubles tennis is more dangerous than going to a swimming pool or a running match. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, you're with your team. It's okay if you play singles tennis, but doubles tennis is worse. And I'm kind of going like, so I've watched tennis. I'm not sure I quite understand that there's a big difference between 2 people playing tennis and 4 people playing tennis. But I guess they've got their rationale. Boy, I'll tell you what came from the State High School League the other day with their 3 scenarios, which came on the end of 3 scenarios about going back to school in the fall, back to complete distance, back in school completely, or something in the middle. That's basically what the State High School League came out and said, look, we're going to play no sports, all sports, or we're going to pick and choose sports. And we know which ones of the sports in the fall would not be played. And obviously that one is football. I think everybody else is going to play. But I think they were putting it out there that they don't think football is going to be played. But then the state came out today and said the kids can start playing their games because it's well-being. They need to get out and do socializing and get physically active and whatever else. So now they're saying, well, you can go play baseball against one another. Okay, so you can go whatever, you can start running hockey practices, you can start running football practices, you can start doing this. And I'm just like, I don't know who to believe in. I don't know.
If the Gophers start practicing football, you know that UMD and Bemidji and some of these other people that take their football, they're going to start. There's none of these teams are going to fold up without a league. They're going to go to it. How are you going to tell the high school senior that's been playing this game for many years as well, no season for you?
Well, I'll tell you, we didn't think they would do it for baseball and everything else, but they certainly, I didn't think that they would stop a state tournament smack dab in the middle of it by having they did it. And so, yeah, Dr. Fauci came out this week and basically said if they don't play football in a bubble, it's a bad situation, and that's where the concern comes for football now, NFL included. How do you put teams that got 100 guys in a bubble with 32 teams? I don't know. I'm hoping for the best, but I'm expecting the worst in this situation.
I just wrote a little bit about that, just in terms of how are the colleges doing this, and it says, and this is basically my take. Colleges are tripping over each other right now, trying to announce the opening of their classes, their campuses, and this includes activities. University leaders don't really know if they can pull this off, Tim, because what do you have? You have in-person classes, you have large sports activities and concerts and whatnot. The whole, you went to school, you know how that campus is. You've got parties, you've got all kinds of social activities. I put down that college is a contact sport in just about every level. As one university leader put it, universities are so optimistic right now, so optimistic, they're delusional. And I think sometimes because we love our sport or we like our, but that very well could be it. They could be hit with something they don't know yet.
The state colleges, the community colleges, and junior and St. Cloud states of the world announced this week that they're planning on having classes in person with a mixture of online classes to boot.
But many of them had online classes for years anyway.
Yes, and so that won't be. But like you said, now I'm thinking about right here in International Falls, we've got the dormitory. So are you going to limit the kids to one kid per room to try to keep them separated?
Well, I think what you're doing is kind of coasting over the rocks here, and the rocks is money. And it's just like, there's not a college or a university that is not short of cash right now, and all of a sudden, half their kids don't show up and fall on campus. What does that do to Dinkytown? What does that do to all the apartments around campus? What does that do to books, salaries, class sizes? You can see where I'm going here. This is what they're afraid of, and so they're going to put the best foot forward in every forum, and I don't blame them. It's just they have to take a look at the worst possible scenario as well.
It is definitely a tough situation with everything, and so as we sit here on June 19th, Friday, June 19th, you tell me. I'm going to ask the question. You just say yes or no. NFL football starts on time. Yes or no?
Yes.
College football starts on time.
Yes.
High school football gets a chance to play. Wow.
I can't say that. I can't say. I just, they're, like you said, they have taken the activities out of high school so much that we'd never seen it before, and it really bothers us to watch that because we know these kids and knows what it hurts and stuff. Football, not having a football season, I know what that would have done to me. I know what that would have done to you. And in neither way would the Frake or the Ringhofer household been a very good place to live. it's just, and I understand this. So I hope that they get a chance. I hope they can see their way. I do know that my grandsons go to a parochial school in Bemidji, and they're going to open up the 1st of September, and this is going to be all kids. So all kids are going there. They don't have to pay attention to what the state is doing at this point.
Yeah, there is that. I've heard that discussion that the private schools will be able to do. They don't have to follow the recommendations.
They don't. Yeah.
So we'll see how that all plays out. It's going to be interesting. So. Where do you want to go next, or you want to beat that horse a little bit more?
No, we don't. We can.
As long as we started talking about horses,
we will talk. I'll tell you what. We'll talk.
I don't want to get anybody. I don't want to get anybody mad that I said to beat a horse.
No, I'll tell you what. I can talk just a little bit about those. Some of the things that are going on. We are at an age of activism here, and the pro and the college athlete is starting to see my voice has a little swing. And so we brought up Texas. They have the virus over there. They also tossed out the eyes of Texas are upon me. They also went arm in arm with protesters in downtown Austin, Texas. I mean, and if you're going to have somebody in a protest parade, if you have the Longhorns in front of you, that's good. And so young people are taking a look at this as possibilities of things that might be, and I'm wondering about Texas and some of these southern schools. They are smart enough to know that they don't need Confederate flags anymore, that they don't need the remnants of this ghost and of this past.
The SEC put Mississippi on alert, the state of Mississippi, with that no SEC championships will be held in Mississippi as long as the Confederate flag is being used for over in the state. And I'll tell you, that was to me that was a big shocker to me. I didn't expect that one. I didn't expect that domino to fall. It should fall, but I didn't expect it to fall, in my opinion. So there's some.
They took down Cal Griffiths.
Calvin Griffith, the former owner of the Twins, his statue was taken down today in front of Target Field. I had not heard about this story, about what he said in 1978. I was absolutely flabbergasted when I read the story about it. They had a little blurb from Rod Carew that Rod had kind of forgave Calvin Griffith for, had learned to live with it, that's what was said. And that was his mindset, and that it was time to let bygones be bygones, so to speak, and moved on from there. So they also took down the statue of the former Washington Redskins owner today in front of their complex. The guy, and I can't think for right now, for the life of me, I can't think of his name. I only saw it about 18 times today as the ESPN was scrolling across, but they took his statue down today, and of course that also, in my mind, begged the questions about the name Redskins, but, well, that's a conversation maybe for another day. So, there's lots of things that are changing, and we can't change the past. We can't necessarily let people who did those things be glorified. They can be remembered, but they've got to also have that asterisk or whatever. I'm not sure what the right terminology is.
I was at the Gettysburg battlefield one time, and there's portions of it that are just chock full of monuments, and this thing fought here and this fought here, and I was not uncomfortable. And that was the place where it should have been, on the battlefield. These are the people that are there, and to deny that they were there and that they weren't killing each other is a little bit ridiculous. But for you to live your culture around that. In Memphis, Tennessee, I'm walking around, and there is a horse half as big a size as the Muni of Nathan Bedford Forrest. And I took a look at that, and there he is. And I mean, he was a ferocious Confederate commander, and also one of the founders of the Ku Klux Klan. But the key is, one generation later, Nathan Bedford Forrest III was an Army Air Force bomber in World War II, and died getting an air medal. So and dying for his country. So one generation apart. you take a look at and you think, this is the strange part about this country. Because when I first heard that story about Nathan Bedford Forrest III, I was stunned.
Yeah.
And it's just because I didn't know that part.
Sure.
You know, and so there are things that happen, but all those incredible statues and everything, if you can't find a place for them, melt them down. And it's most of them were put up in the 1920s and during the heart of Jim Crow. They're not needed.
Let's talk about Dean Blaze.
We do that.
Let's talk about Bronco Hall of Famer Dean Blaze. How's that?
Hey, so did you bring it up last winter that he was given the John McInnes?
We did not talk about this at any juncture,
okay,
at any time.
Well, I'll tell you what. You got to go to the North. The national
NCHC.hockey.com .org site.
Incredible website, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been there. This is the first.
I have been there many times.
And
yes.
so in the interview, they had a 14-minute interview with him, and he talked about John McInnes, and he talked about how when he was a Gopher, they'd go up to Houghton, and McInnes was at Michigan Tech, and I was at UMD, and I mean, the first thing you noticed about half of McInnes' team, they looked like they played football. They were huge, and they would thump you. And in those days, thumping was a little bit different than it is now. And so Blaze would said we'd go out to Houghton. We would be lucky to get any points at all, but we were never for lack of getting beat up. You know, so a lack of bruises. But what impressed Dean mostly, now, was not only a style of hockey, which really wouldn't work anymore, was the fact that McInnes had a 93% graduation rate, which is high in any athletic team.
Well, it is Michigan Tech.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
So your standards for getting in, but still, you got to bring guys in, and you got to keep them for 4 years, and you got to keep them happy and get them. 93% is doggone good. That's 15 out of 16.
Yeah. And then Dean talked about how it's a little bit different. In the old days, you'd pick up an 18-year-old kid, and he would come in. Now they come in at 20 or 21, and after playing a couple of years of juniors, by this time they're in college. They're doing this. They're focusing on playing hockey, and he says they're just like professionals. When they're young like this, they come in. They're starry-eyed. They want to do all the rest of this stuff. He says you got to bring them there. It was a little bit different deal. And McInnes, he says we wanted these guys out in 4 years. You graduate out in 4 years, and so you know, I said, you know, this is what Blaze's deal is. He and McInnes believed in student athletes, the student in athletes, not the athlete student, and realized, you know, and I mean, because I know he's working with a lot of hard-headed kids. I was one once. Here, this is what's going to make you maintain. This is what the way you're going to do it, and the NFL contract isn't going to come. Okay, and then the 13-minute interview, he goes off. What do you owe your success to? My assistant coaches, and they are the head coach at Air Force. They're all over the country, and of course, and Scott Sandlin, and you know, and I mean, Sandlin he's building his own legend now. He's got three in a row, and I talked to Dean about it last spring, and I asked him. I says the UMD was so much fun to watch, and he just glowed. He just glowed in pride for his friend, you know. So anyway, other recipients of this thing has been Jack Riley, Bob Johnson, Murray Armstrong, Herbie Brooks, Rick Comley, Ron Mason, Jim Taylor, Doug Woog, Jack Parker, and last year it was Red Berenson. And but 1999, the recipient was Gino Casparini.
Sure.
And Gino Casparini was the reason that Dean wound up at North Dakota. And I can see Casparini loading up his assistant coaching staff. I mean, there's a lot of talented, hungry kids out there loading up, and that's exactly what Dean did as well. Absolutely. So, you know, he picked that up.
Yeah, so this award goes basically for a coach who has retired. I won't say always has to be retired, but an award for having a good winning percentage is what I read.
That's right.
But also having a great graduation rate,
Yeah, he says
and
that, yeah.
having an effect on the game, the amateur game of hockey. Not so much professional.
Yeah.
What you did for amateur hockey, and Dean Blaze definitely fills the criteria right to the brim.
Well, he does, and he calls it the 3 aspects of success: the winning percentage. He was a 6'11" over 18 years. That's 408, 240, 248, and 63, which over 400. That's a lot. How your players perceive you, and you know, if you're going to be a successful coach, you better have a certain level of charisma. They better buy into your thing, whatever it is. I mean,
that's why coaches are such filled with such antics.
That's they'll do anything to get them pumped up. And if you take a look at Coach Fleck, that's a perfectly good example there. But I'll tell you what, when I see these guys, you say, no wonder Dean has set up just incredible standards. If you took a look at the Bronco Hall of Fame, there is nobody that sets higher standards than Dean has, and has followed through on them in every fashion. So now he hangs out where it is. He's hanging out on Rainy Lake, just flaying the fish. And he and his wife Jackie, and I know you've met them. I've only met them a couple times. Between the two of them, they have almost a storybook couple relationship. And I see that, and I look at that, and I think, wow, somebody should write a story about you guys. You know, and it's just, but you know, what a heck of a guy. And it's not hard to talk about the pride of International Falls, the pride of Bill Blaze. But he's a very fine gentleman. He's a fine coach, and what a terrific example for kids. Karn was down at North Dakota. My daughter was down in North Dakota, and she was working in the athletic room when Dean come walking through, and he stopped, and he turned around, and he had her in elementary school, and he remembered her. Karn, what are you doing here? So he is. He remembers. He remembers his players. He remembers his coaches. He's a good, fine man.
Well, let's stay with the college hockey scene here. Former Gopher hockey coach, men's hockey coach Don Lucia.
He did well.
New commissioner for the new CCHA, the revamped CCHA, and I know for us old hockey fans, the CCHA means, well, Illinois, Michigan hockey. Well, that's not what the CCHA is going to be. This is kind of like the defunct WCHA. The teams that are at the top are moving on, and they're going to be reorganized as the CCHA. And Lucia is going to be the commissioner. And I think they made a wise choice.
He's years of experience. He's been at the crutch of that Gopher program for so long. Is he originally from Grand Rapids?
He is originally from Grand Rapids.
Yes.
I was talking to Stuart Nordquist the other day, and he said, I remember that he was their middle linebacker and their quarterback, as I recall.
I think he was. Yes, I think he was.
For their football team when Stuart was first here. So yeah, there's definitely a northern Minnesota connection there as well. So.
I've got some Gopher basketball news.
I didn't even write this one down. I forgot about this from earlier in the week.
Booth Gotch. Do you remember him?
I do remember him playing in the state basketball tournament. What I didn't remember was that he didn't play his senior year at Austin, that he left to
went to prep school.
And went to prep school in Arizona, and then ended up in Utah, which all kind of made sense after that. But I did not realize that he had not played his senior year at Austin. So
well, I'll tell you what, anybody that needs a 6'6", 285-pound guard, I'd take a really close look at him. He was second in scoring for Utah last year. He had only one of 3 that have ever been done in Utah, but he had a triple-double, so he is capable of a whole lot of things.
Well, let's hope that the NCAA does the right thing and allows him to be eligible so that he can play this season.
Well, I think that's it. And also, he's one of 3...
Past practice shows that he won't be, though.
Yeah, I know. But Gotch is also, he's one of 3 transfers, including Liam Robbins from Drake, and he's the other one they have to get waivers for. And Brandon Johnson, a forward from Western Michigan, he's a graduate student, so he's good to go. And then they got 3 incoming freshmen: Jamal Mashburn Jr., a guard from Miami, and
all you gotta do is say Mashburn, and we know that should be good, right?
That's what I say. And Martise Mitchell, a center from Chicago, and a guard, David Mutoff, and David's from Turkey. Now, I don't think that's in Minnesota. I think that this is another deal.
I don't think that goes there, that's for sure.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Yeah, so that was some good news for the Gopher basketball faithful this week.
Yeah.
He was definitely weighing his options, but returning home, and he thought if he could tell the NCAA that he was returning home to be closer to the family, that they might, I think that was the reason why he chose Minnesota, because that was going to give him the opportunity to be able to maybe play right away. Otherwise, probably not.
I just have one minor little detail here.
Okay.
You know, we've been talking about coaches, and especially those great hockey coaches. These are all legendary people. But I'll tell you what, if you talk about a class act coach, right now Mike Zimmer gets my nod.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, I can't wait to hear maybe some of the comments, because you know there's a lot of Mike Zimmer haters out here, because in Minnesota we love our coaches as soon as they get signed, and then we give them like 2 years, and if they haven't won a championship, which obviously hasn't happened here in Minnesota for a while, unless your name is Cheryl Reed, every coach, every manager, whoever, Paul Molitor, blah blah, everyone, even Paul Molitor, the great Paul Molitor, got his name dragged through the mud. If you don't win a championship, you're a bum. But having said that, Mike Zimmer is in your good graces.
Well, he is right now. I'll tell you what, Eric Hendricks and some of the other players, they when things started breaking loose, and all the Black Lives Matter stuff, they took the bull by the horns and went down and handed out food down by the grocery store, but it all happened, and they did a whole bunch of stuff. And Coach Zimmer is watching this, and like I say, he's an old school coach, Tim, and he's attempting to understand how the Twin Cities could be burning up like this. But he does understand one thing, and so do you. That is how close team members can get.
Yeah.
And he got the team together, and he told them, I don't understand this. I'd like to understand it. I'm trying to understand it. I just know I love you guys, and I will protect you like you're my sons. That is how Mike Zimmer handles this. I couldn't see him. That's how he was trained. That's the kind of men that coached us.
Right.
This is. I saw that, and all of a sudden, there was no wishy-washy from that football team. I think they bought in to what he was saying. They were grateful that they play football for a man that will express his limitations and also express what his hopes are.
Well, and we've seen so many coaches over the last few weeks, athletes, whatever, put their foot in their mouth, trying to say the right things. We talk about whoever that is. Some people might say they didn't put their foot in their mouth at all. Some people would say they stuck it in really, really far. Some of us, whoever we are there or whatever, might say, well, it's perception. It is what it is. So there are things that have been said, and again, so much has changed in the last month. Last 3 weeks, so much has changed with everything that's gone on from this. So it's. I think everybody's learning a lot. Everybody's perceptions are changing of how things should be, everything else. So it's an amazing time. It's a critical time, and let's hope that we get a lot of positivity out of this.
Well, there was a really good article in the Journal Sports page last night, written by Dave Campbell. He's an AP reporter, so this is not local. This is a guy taking an objective look of what was going on, not only the Vikings but all sports venues throughout Minnesota, and some of the things that these good folks were doing. So, but this is it's a nice article. Check that one out as well. So I've got 2 checkouts. That's look up Deanie Blaze's article and listen to his interview. It's always good to hear his voice.
Yeah, nchchockey.com again for that. For the NCHC site for that interview.
I know you know those details.
I read the article. I did not watch the interview.
Yeah.
I read the article. So one of the few times where I took the reading route rather than taking the visual route, because I unlike you, I'm not a huge book reader. I'd rather watch the video of it. So, geez, is that everything? You're closing up. Is that everything you got?
Well, I'm not sure, but probably.
I got a couple of things.
Good.
That
the only other one that I was thinking about, and I knew you would know this, is the Bronco bass fishing team.
Well, I don't have a lot of details on that, but yes, they've been competing. They're heading to Captogama in a couple weeks. I basically got what was in the daily, the journal. I should say the weekly now, I guess.
See the picture of that big tall one back there with the long hair?
He supposedly, this is the rumor now, this is what he told the head coach, that he ran a 4.940. And I said, well, I can't wait to get him as my pulling guard.
Oh!
Isn't that a nice way to say it?
No, it's nice to have an athlete that you can put in any one of 5 positions, and he could be a pretty good blocking end, too.
Kinds of things,
yeah.
St. Thomas, University of St. Thomas this week, kind of got maybe that they're going to get pushed to Division I following this season after the MIAC kicks them out. They thought they might hear yes or no on Wednesday. The NCAA said, well, we're going to form a committee and we'll let you know in April, which is pretty late in the ballgame to be finding out whether you are or are not going Division I. But hopefully for St. Thomas' sake, I think, they get to go Division I in these sports, and they got an invitation from the Summit League, who's going to kind of help them to do all the paperwork and give them the nod and the support that they need.
Well, they're kind of forced into it a little bit. What are you going to do? You can't stay where you're at, and you can't go behind you. So it's time to go forward. And I see that the McAllister and one other school joined the MIAC, and I'm sure part of the reason that they couldn't be looking at St. Thomas and St. John's thinking this should be a good time.
That definitely can happen. So did you watch any Australian rules football last week?
I did not. I saw it was advertised and coming up there, but I'll tell you what I did watch is I watched the 6th and 7th game of the 1952 World Series between the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Yankees.
Wow.
And so I got to watch Jackie Robinson. Well, I watched him play 3 games last week. One was against Don Larson, and he got no hits. That was in 1956. But in 1952, you can see him, and he's a big man. And you could see him cheating his lead off first. And you could just see it, just cheating. And I thought, I bet you drove those pitchers nuts, And it's, but I'll tell you what, if they could put a lot of those old time games on there, and watch Pee Wee Reese, and watch Enos Slaughter, and watch Gil Hodges, and it goes on and on and on.
Oh, that's a walk down memory lane right there.
It is, yeah.
Couple of local notes. We'll start with the Rainy River women's hockey program. I didn't hear this locally. I actually was on Twitter this morning, and Fox 21 had reported that Rainy River has suspended the women's hockey program following the resignation of Aaron Nagurski. And so again, I know they've been struggling the last couple of years for numbers, to put a schedule together and everything else. And I suspect with the COVID virus, it was going to be tough to recruit enough players in to get them to commit to come to campus possibly. So they didn't say gone, they said suspended, which could mean a variety of things. But again, I know the coaches who have had that program over the years. Evan Omdahl obviously comes to mind, and Aaron. They did a lot of work to try to get that to work, to get kids to come to the campus, and obviously hockey at the college level should be a part of our community. Not only I think for the women, but I also thought for the men that there should have been some way for it to get back together. But of course we have the Canadian, the junior team over in Fort Francis, and of course we aren't even going to get into the holy terror that they got into in the last couple of days with the whole Canadian Hockey League and the lawsuit. We'll save that for next week possibly.
I better research.
Yeah, you should go home and read the article. They prefaced the start of the article with there is graphic details that you better be ready for, and it's beyond.
I was just getting a whiff of this. This is harassing and hazing.
The hazing and things, and the things that they asked these kids to do or made them do. If you have not read the article yet, will put you. I can handle a lot of things. I think this even put me back on my heels. That how somebody could treat another human being like that. But that's a story for another week maybe. And then let's end on a good note. As far as local sports,
yeah.
Wyatt Ulrich, we mentioned that the Northwoods League was going to start. It did start on Monday night, and Wyatt got a couple of runs on Monday. He got one on Tuesday, and on Thursday night he got another run, his 4th of the season, which makes him the all-time Northwoods League. He's the #1 overall run scorer ever for
really?
the Northwoods League at 138 runs.
So what's he going to do when he's done with? He's going to Richmond.
He's going to Richmond, Virginia. Going to play with the Richmond Spiders.
So he has 1 year or 2 years eligibility.
1 year
eligibility.
left out there to play. He's going to go out to graduate school because he just graduated from St. John's. And so Mr. Lark, as they are promoting him on the website, if you want to go to the northwoodsleague.com website, it comes up pretty much right to the Bismarck stuff, because that's the only place where they're playing baseball right now. And so Mr. Lark got a good start. I know he is, he had so many records that he would have set at St. John's this past spring had they had a season. Runs scored, triples was definitely in play, stolen bases was in play, number of hits was definitely in play, and so now it's going to be interesting to see what he can do.
Do you see him attempting the next level?
He has aspirations to go play at the next level. I know my nephew was fortunate enough to get drafted by the Baltimore Orioles a few years ago, and he asked if he could get Luke's number so that he could ask, how do I go about getting an agent, and how do I go about promoting myself, and what should I do? So yeah, this is something that Wyatt is very interested in. Obviously he's a little bit older because he took a couple years of junior hockey before he started this whole thing, but he was a slap hitter, pound him in the ground and beat it down to first, and that was the kind of player he was. And now he's starting to open things up, and he was always a good defensive player. I think he's become a great defensive player out in center field for the Larks and for the Johnnies for the past couple of years. And so I know his dad watched the show last week, because he told me, if you want tickets, Ringer, you better get a hold of Mr. Lark sooner rather than later, so make sure that you can get tickets, because they've only got a limited number of tickets. So
do they stream any of these games?
The games are, the first couple of nights were available free. Now you'd have to buy the season package on there. I have not looked at that price to see what that was, but obviously good stuff there.
I pay some pretty heavy dues to watch a good baseball game right now.
Yeah, the thing is, there's 3 teams in Bismarck playing, and we mentioned them last week, and so there's some off days worked into the schedule, but these guys are going to be playing and practicing, and obviously these are college kids who are playing with a wooden bat in the Northwoods League and getting a chance to I guess simply say, I think I can say it this way: yes, they get a chance to promote themselves, but they get a chance to play the game that they love, that they didn't get to do this spring. And for Wyatt, I think that was the #1 thing. And plus getting a chance heading to Richmond in the fall. I'm sure fall ball will start pretty much right, if they can play, obviously, depending upon your state. But obviously North Dakota and some of the other states have opened things up. Minnesota is getting there, obviously, with the town ball opening up and playing last weekend. I know Nick Schenecker and his team got to play last week, and so things are opening up, and we'll see how things pan out.
Hope for the best.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. And what's been on your turntable this week? Because here I'm going to cut into your story, because it's Father's Day on Sunday, and happy Father's Day to you and to all the fathers out there. And but my request for Father's Day is a turntable, because I've got, I don't know, maybe 150 albums that are sitting in my house that, if I get that turntable on Sunday for Father's Day, for about the next 150 days, I figured I've got one album for the next 150 days that I can turn on and listen to and get some memories. And these obviously are all going to be old albums from the 60s,
that's okay.
70s, 80s.
They clean up well, yeah.
And I know somebody who's got maybe a couple 1,000 albums.
You know,
that if I really needed to listen to something.
Oh yeah, you can blow my mind. You know, it's. I go through my record collection, and soon I play one every night. And I looked, and an album that was given to me a number of years ago was a guy named Guitar Slim, and he is a Southern Delta blues guy, but he was from the 50s. He died in 1959 at 33 years old, and he was a blues, gospel, and when you listen real close, you can hear the birth of rock and roll. And it's just like, and we played this thing, and the album looks decrepit, it looks beat up, and right now it's gone into my top 10 albums.
Oh, wow.
And so that takes some doing. But yeah, Guitar Slim was an excellent find this week. I was real happy for that. Real happy for that.
Well, good enough. Does that wrap her up?
I'm doing real well. Try it again next week.
Hey, folks, stay safe out there. And
East Coast, West Coast, wear that mask, stay safe.
All right. See you next week.
Thanks.